Alright, it's time to talk about the newest hero shooter on the horizon, as if we didn't have enough of those. But this time, it's with Spider-Man, which, I mean, it makes it pretty cool, I guess. Of course, I'm talking about Marvel Rivals, the new quote-unquote Overwatch killer, as the kids are saying. When this game was first announced, I had super high hopes and was very excited. One, for the sheer fact that you can play all these cool-ass Marvel characters, which is probably the biggest selling point of the game. Two, because it brings a new 6v6 game onto the market, which has been severely lacking since Overwatch's departure. And three, because it was developed by NetEase, which I, granted, know very little about, I'll be honest, but they make DBD mobile, and if you know anything about Dead by Daylight, you know the mobile version seems to somehow get every single feature that the main player base wants in the real game. But, you know, I won't rant about Dead by Daylight, but all I wanted to say is that I had confidence, unlike most, that this game would be good, and so I went in with decently high expectations. And I would like to say that I am pleasantly surprised with the results. Before I review, there's been some talk online about how some creators have been offered codes to the game with legal documents that essentially say you can't talk shit about our game. I don't know the exact validity of any of this, but I can say that I did not receive any information back from Mr. Rivals when I submitted my application to become a partnered creator, and my code I got was from sheer luck of the draw. So I'm free to say whatever I please. Let's get started with the gameplay. Firstly, it's third person, which I've already seen a lot of people complaining about online. To that, I say, please shut the fuck up. We already have 3 first-person hero shooters at the top of the market right now. Would it kill you to switch it up a little bit? I personally like the third-person nature. It's a nice change-up to the already stale formula we've been getting. I can understand some honest complaints with the third person, like sometimes your camera gets stuck in weird spots, or you try to shoot at something but your character's actually behind an object, so it just hits the wall in front of you, but those are very, very slight issues that have not hindered any of my gameplay experience in a significant way. But now let's move on to the characters. The characters in this game are split into 3 types. Similar to Overwatch, you get your tanks, your DPS, and your supports. They have different names in this game, but I don't remember them, nor does it matter. Every character in this game, for the most part, is pretty well designed to fit their Marvel counterparts, but they also have interesting kits gameplay-wise. For instance, Iron Man, who could have very easily just been a Pharah ripoff, fly into the sky, shoot rockets down, maybe launch a missile here and there, actually has some pretty in-depth gameplay to him. You have his normal repulsor projectiles, but you also have this short-range beam attack. You also have your rocket thrusters to get around, and while thrusting, you were then able to send out homing rockets down onto your opponent. Finally, you could transform into a powered-up version and launch a super omega laser at people. Instead of just the boring gameplay of fly up, shoot down rockets at the enemy, you're instead flying around, shooting projectiles at range, diving people with barrages of rockets, and then transforming into an omega beam to burst them down up close. Almost all of the characters in this game are designed this way to have a lot of tools in their kit that synergize together really well, leading to some extremely engaging and fun to use characters. It honestly reminds me a lot of Garden Warfare's characters more than Overwatch, where Garden Warfare's characters are a lot about comboing stuff together to get like a very satisfying kill on the opponent. Whereas Overwatch is all about clicking one button off cooldown and clicking another button whenever you get jumped. But with any hero shooter comes the question of balance. Sure, a lot of these characters are fun to use, but are they balanced? Do they all seem viable? Of course not. This is an alpha test for a game that probably won't release until 2025. But with that factor in mind, it's pretty decently well done. Now, there are some obvious ones, being the Punisher's shotgun does insane damage at stupid ranges. Hela seems insanely strong if you have good aim and can land headshots, which of course is more skill-based, but still, out of all the characters, she is definitely one of the strongest. And then there's Star-Lord, who's my personal favorite in the game, and I hope they don't touch him, but he might need it a little bit, I'll admit. The other side of balancing, though, is characters that seem too weak, and I believe the category almost all of them fall into in this game is simply the melee characters. Every character whose primary attack is a melee attack in this game seems severely lacking in power. Besides maybe Magic, who gains shield from attacking and has like portals that not only confuse the shit out of everyone trying to kill her, but she also gets slight immunity frames. She might be the only melee character I've seen someone pop off with. But even then, it's very hard to do. And I've also seen a couple people pop off with Hulk, but he's a tank, so there's that. But Spider-Man, which I know everyone has been complaining about, rightfully so, and Black Panther seem to be extremely hard and for very little value in return. I don't think I've ever died to a Black Panther in my 8+ hours of playtime, but I've died to a Spider-Man, alt, I've died to his ult. Yeah, that thing is amazing. The rest of his kit, no, I don't think I've ever been killed by him once. He's more just of a nuisance. You see him 1 second, people shoot at him, next second he's zipped away. Right now, Spider-Man is more of a fun joke character than an actual threat, which is very unfortunate as he is probably one of the most popular Marvel characters there is, and he has a kit that fits really well, it just needs a couple of number tweaks here and there. The most broken part of this game, though, isn't the characters themselves, but the team-up mechanic exclusive to this game. The team-up mechanic, for the uninitiated, is essentially a built-in feature where if you have 2 characters on one team, they can activate boosts for one another, which usually gives an entire new ability to one character, and then what is called a season bonus to the other character, giving them a stat increase. Why is it called a season bonus, and what that means for the future? I have no idea. The strongest team-ups in the game right now seem to be Rocket and Groot, as well as Magneto and Wanda. Rocket and Groot being on the same team automatically gives Groot an extra 200 HP, which is an insane buff, but also allows Rocket to ride on Groot's shoulder, which not only makes it near impossible to hit Rocket, but also gives Rocket a 15% damage reduction. So now imagine trying to fight a 900 HP tank with a pocket healer strapped to his back who has the damage reduction and the smallest hitbox in the game. It makes Groot near impossible to kill. The other team up I mentioned, Wanda and Magneto, gives Magneto a new ability that is so good. I don't even bother playing him without it. And that is his energy sword. This ability has a hefty cooldown of about 30 seconds, but when you activate it, you get a melee attack that sends a projectile forward doing massive damage with an incredibly large and forgiving hitbox. This move essentially turns Magneto into one of the strongest DPS characters in the game for a brief period of time on the tank roll. The amount of game-changing plays I've been able to make by clicking that button and just spamming the sword into an enemy crowd and clipping their squishies is incredible. But I think the team-ups are actually one of the coolest parts of the game. And as the game's roster gets larger and larger, these will become more and more common with possibly more game-changing effects tacked onto them. And I'm all for it. I've also seen the complaint, mostly by Overwatch players, that there's a lack of role queue in the game, which I don't think is needed. The game just came out, and it's an alpha, for Christ's sake. Let people play who they want to play. Let them make comps that they want to make. I've won plenty of games with one tank and one support. The team-ups in the game allow for these sort of playstyles and interesting team comps to shine, and adding role queue would just take away the creative freedom that this game has right now. Let the people have fun, man. Although I would recommend playing the game primarily with friends, or at least a duo, so you can take advantage of the team-ups, as they're definitely one of the highlights of the game. Some other last-minute things I should touch on. Firstly, the in-game destruction. There's actually a button you can click to see things in your environment that are destructible, and what's not, which is pretty cool, although I barely used it. My experience with the environmental destruction is that sometimes things just explode and fall on your head, and then rebuild. And it's pretty funny. Overall, I enjoy it. It's just another goofy mechanic in this game, and I'm a simple man who likes silly things. The art style of the game is also something I enjoy. The menus are incredibly well done and animated beautifully, and the skins they have right now to show are also pretty cool looking. Although, don't get too attached, as these will 100% cost $20 on release. But they're cosmetic, and the game is free, so you know, where have I seen this system done before? The maps in game I also think are pretty nice looking and play pretty decent from my experience so far. There are only 2 different environments with, I believe, 3 maps total, and even though I was kind of getting sick of the same old by the 8-hour mark, I don't think the maps are bad. Finally, the game definitely needs a bit of time in the oven to fix its performance and optimization. It is actually hilarious how badly the Doctor Strange portal fucks up the performance for everyone in the game. They deadass just put a lag switch on a 3-minute cooldown. There's also 100% of memory leak somewhere in the game, as if you play it for too long at the end of games, instead of showing you the MVP and lobby screen, it just freezes for like 30 seconds and then sends you to the menu, which was also pretty cool. Of course, this is an alpha test. I expect these things to be easily fixed in the future, but still figured they were worth a mention. So overall, the game is incredibly fun. I actually have been having a great time with it. I had high hopes, and my expectations were happily met. Also, apparently because I hit level 10 in the alpha, I'm supposed to get an instant access to the next beta test, which is exciting, and I'll continue to share my thoughts on that if they change any. So yeah, be sure to like the video, subscribe, join the Discord or whatever, and add Venom to the game.